NC State legend Phillip Rivers and his son Gunnar have confirmed that they will be at the Dirty Foot Club NC State season finale. Is this NC State's last chance to make a first impression?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Friday show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can sign up today, bet just $5, and if that $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 to use across the app in bonus bets. Download the app today. FanDuel, play your game. Happy Friday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibb. Kenton, we all saw the report the other day that Phillip and Gunnar Rivers will be in attendance for NC State versus North Carolina to conclude the regular season. This will also be Gunnar Rivers' second technically official visit to NC State in the calendar year. He visited Dave Dorn and the Wolfpack back in the spring for a spring practice. Being that Gunnar is a top 50 player in the country, I believe he's the sixth best quarterback coming out of high school for the 2027 class. 2027 kid getting to the end of 2025 here. I'd have to imagine we're probably inching closer to some kind of commitment date. It's not set, but I can't imagine it'll be too far in the distance. Is this NC State's potential last chance to get on the horn?
It absolutely is NC State's last chance potentially, but I will say this. This is a situation where the right coaching hire could potentially flip things. I'm not going to lie and say I have sources close to Gunnar and he's leaning towards NC State, leaning away from NC State. I'm not going to tell you that lie. We on Locked On Wolfpack, we tell you when we got insider info, we tell you when we're speculating. Right now I'm speculating that I don't know why a top quarterback would want to go into a situation that is potentially rife with instability. And as much as people want to say, well, Dorn's been here for forever, that's a ton of stability. Not really when you look at your coordinators being turned over from last year, losing both, even if one of them was getting a head coaching job. That's not a ton of stability. Offensive coordinator-wise, yes, you continue continuity by keeping Roper on staff from the last group, but your last offensive coordinator is objectively not here anymore. The offensive coordinator that may have started building a relationship with Gunnar is objectively not here anymore. That's just a fact of life there. So you look at these things and you say to yourself, okay, well, what is the get for Gunnar? Like, what is the thing that you can use to get Gunnar? A lot of people say, well, it's obvious. Your dad played here and he was great here. Is that a positive? Is that a positive? It could be. It could be a negative. It could be a huge negative to like, hey, my dad was one of the greatest to ever do it here. He was one of the greatest to ever lace him up here. Those are tall shoes to live in. That's a very tall shadow to live in. When I was a kid playing football just in the city of Detroit, my dad had cast a decent-sized shadow, which, he was so convinced that I was not going to get out of. How'd that work out for you, buddy? But, it's the reality of, like, you're going to see a situation where some people want to walk into a situation like that, some people don't. And then we all know the looming rumors about a impending potential retirement of Dave Dorn or a potential separation, depending on how the rest of the season goes. These are, that one, there's no way to spin that as a positive except you could get a home run hire. But again, we're looking at one of the most difficult coaching hiring cycles in the history of college football. And that's no exaggeration. That is, you think of how many top Power 4 jobs there are. Power 4 jobs where you can easily clear 8 to 9 million per year. How many of those are popping open all at once here? So I say all that to say, this is not a moment where I would say, I have any insider information on Gunnar's recruitment. But what I will say is, having him show up to a game that you're probably going to win against your biggest rival, it won't hurt you. That's one of the things that very likely will not hurt you.
I probably should have already included the disclaimer, but we are operating under the idea that when Gunnar arrives in college, that Dave Dorn will not be at NC State. Many of you can probably pick that up with the way we've been talking about this the last couple months, but we're operating with that in mind. So when you hear us talk about impending coaching change, that's what we mean. So we've had some people ask us like, well, if that is the case and NC State does look like potential unstable ground, will that affect the recruitment of Gunnar Rivers? I mean, it's undeniable that it's going to have some kind of effect. And some people think, well, what if we just hire his dad to be the head coach? The two of us are not as warm on that idea as many others are. I just don't think that's like the Band-Aid idea that you're looking for. Would it be great to have Phillip around the program? Absolutely. But I don't know if just injecting him into the head coaching chair is the end all be all. That's the correct answer. Maybe like GM or maybe quarterbacks coach at some point. I'm not sold on him as a head coach. So you put that to the side for just a second. If you are under the idea that Dave Doeren will not be here, then you have to figure a quarterback of Gunnar's stature, they're going to want to go somewhere they can build immediately, play immediately, win immediately.
Yeah.
Can't State be that in about a year and a half's time, 2 years' time, especially if you are operating under that idea that we're about to go through a coaching change. So that then tasks Corrigan with a massive ordeal. Now, I should also say this. They're not going to hold the program hostage over one play. Assume new head coach and new regime, that's not going to depend on Gunnar, and it won't be the inverse of that either. So keep that in mind as well. It's not a hostage situation that we have to at all costs. It must be Gunnar Rivers. He must approve the new head coach. That it's not going to be that. If the Rivers family loves who's coming in, then that's going to be an added bonus. But I want to angle this toward the last thing that Kenton said. The atmosphere around that game. It doesn't really need anything else to be said about it. It's the rivalry game. This 30-foot club in Raleigh. Who knows if Bill Belichick will be making the trip or not. They have to, I guess, survive for another month and a half for that to be the case. The atmosphere is going to be crazy already. So for NC State fans, I think you should take this as essentially a challenge because Gunnar, at this stage of the recruitment and because of everything I've already talked about, the uncertainty, we don't exactly know if he's there because of the coaching staff, because of I want to see what this program look like because it might be different. But what he is there to see is the NC State environment in a rivalry game against the Dirty Foot Club. And if that atmosphere is electric, maybe a couple steps above what it normally is, you can potentially sell Gunnar on, hey, this can be your home stadium. This could be your fans. This could be your crowd. You can play here and set this thing off in a couple years. It should be an insane environment, regardless of what our record is, their record is. I mean, you throw the record books out anyway, but put every single thing else to the side and just make this an absolute madhouse for 4 hours, the last regular season game of the season. That is what you should angle that for. Because if Gunnar Rivers shows up to Carter Finley and he's like, wow, Dad, you used to play here. Was it this loud when you were here? And then Phillip turns and says, no, actually, I've never seen it this loud. This is a couple steps above what I used to play for. Is that could be the selling point? Probably not, but it could factor in. Just a little bit of a reach, but I think you can all understand the direction I'm coming from here. So again, it's a really big deal. It's a top 10 quarterback in the country, a legacy quarterback. His old man is an absolute legend at NC State. It would be outstanding to see Gunnar come here and write his own legacy in the red and white of NC State as well. But massive for NC State to get another visit. Again, the second one in the year of 2025. We can only hope that it is a grand slam performance from the Wolfpack that night against the Dirty Foot Club. Coming up next, we're going to get into some comments made by AD Corrigan about the midseason report about football specifically. He had some comments that riled up the fan base. Not exactly surprising there. We'll talk more about this in a quick word from our sponsors. Friday's sponsor is DoorDash. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, giving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. For the Wolfpack last week, wide receiver Terrell Anderson delivered a 45-yard touchdown grab. In fact, it was the only points we scored all day up at Notre Dame. In the moment, Terrell delivered for the Wolfpack in a big way. If you've been watching TA, then you know week after week this performance was no fluke. Just like Terrell Anderson delivered for the Wolfpack, DoorDash will deliver for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save more on every Saturday that you order. All season long, you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period lasts from right now to November the 18th. Our second Friday sponsor is SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow from over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times can keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every single detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and a dedicated phone support line make the whole process smoother. So join that Trademaster program today for free and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated phone support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Middle portion of our Friday show, wanted to take some time to talk about some comments from AD Boo Corrigan. He was on the Wolfpack radio show the other night talking about the fall sports overall, specifically football, of course. And there was a quote that got out, scoured all over the internet, and it kind of riled everybody up. This quote reads, quote, "Let's remind ourselves that we're 4-3 and not 0-7 at this point in time. The bye week is hitting at a good time for us," unquote. Without the rest of the context, I saw a lot of people looking at that and saying, is he rationalizing a 4-3 record instead of we should be maybe 6-1 or possibly better? Is he telling us that we should accept the results? Is he telling us that he's okay with the way things are going? I'll be the one to say, I don't think that's what he was saying.
Right.
But the rest of the context involves, he was asked about, James Franklin and these coaches getting fired in the middle of the season. What are your thoughts on that? And Boo Corrigan kind of said, the society we're in now, it's a very microwave society. Everyone wants the results now, and sometimes you get a little uppity when that's not the case. And he thinks it's a shame that at times people kind of uproot their fandom and they just want to get rid of everything on site. That's not exactly the way he feels like you should do things. Now, again, I don't believe he's connecting the two ideas where he's saying you should be okay with 4-3. You should be okay with Dorn coming back for X amount of years. That's not what he's getting at. He's just saying, hey, this is the middle of the season. The season's not over. You have feelings. I understand them, but they still have 5 games to play. Let's rally around these guys, hopefully finish the season on a good note, and then we'll go from there. He's not approving that Dave Dorn should be here forever or next season or any of that. So I would advise people to not jump the shark. I don't think he was saying what y'all think he was saying.
I mean, at the end of the day, what is an AD supposed to say, right?
Exactly.
Like, what is he? Let's pretend, right? Let's take this to its most logical edge, right? The most logical thing he could say that's like, all right, this is very edgy, which would be, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable, and if we don't improve, there will be changes made. To a coach that's in year, 13, that we're already hearing retirement rumors about, let's say, hypothetically, there was some conversation had between those two behind closed doors. It was like, hey, I'm probably out of here. Okay, cool. What sense would it make at that point to be like, all right, things are terrible here and you're not getting it done? Listen, at the end of the day, the athletic director is trying to support his direct reports and, hey, we believe in you. We support you. We'll give you the resources. We need you to do the thing. That's what's happening here. 4-3 is better than 0-7 is an objective truth, right? Like, yes, we all know you should be able to beat Campbell. You should be able to beat Wake Forest. You should be able to beat UVA, which a lot of teams can't seem to do these days, But you should be able to do all those things. That is a part of what should happen. But with that being said, he's still acknowledging, like, all right, these it's not what the fan base wants. The fan base ain't happy, and I acknowledge that. I see that y'all aren't happy. So I would say hold your horses, folks. Hold your horses. Don't necessarily, jump the shark over these comments, because this ain't the type of thing that's like, oh my God, it's very clear that he's super happy with mediocrity and Boo has no aspirations higher than mediocrity. Because if that were what you would say, I would simply say, look at all the hires that he's made.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the hires that he's made. Even beyond Will Wade, look at the other hires that he's made. The soccer team that was number 1 in the nation, that is now top 5. It was always said that NC State couldn't get it done, even in a sport that doesn't really move the needle per se in terms of funding like soccer. Boo Corrigan goes out and does his thing. And where's this team ranked in year 2? Inside the top 5. or is it year one? Are they in year one
Year
or
one.
year two? Okay, year one, ladies and gentlemen. Well, looks like the ACC is getting ready to learn some red reckoning in multiple sports. Yeah, but anyway, in all seriousness, this is a situation where we are looking at an athletic director that, with all due respect, Boo Corrigan has built up the equity to where I think we could let a thing like this slide, right? It's the difference between somebody that you've been dating for 2 weeks and somebody that you're married to, right? I'm not saying we're necessarily married to Boo and he's been the greatest AD in the world for 20 years. Not saying that, but I am saying he's done enough positive things to where we can give him the equity to say, you know what? I'm not sure that I like the way that was said, but I'll be all right. I can hear that and not lose my stuff over this one.
Yeah, I agree. And if you go back a calendar year, it was about like this week as well. He put out a statement last year basically saying, we understand your frustrations. We're seeing the same stuff that you're seeing. All we ask is you keep showing up for this program. This is basically the same thing, just in a different font. He's saying, hey, it could be worse. It could be better. We're going to do our best to finish the season on the right foot. That's AD speak. Everybody talks about coach speak. That's AD speak. What else do you want him to say? He's not going to come out and just throw everything out there and say, hey, this is what I was told. This is what I said back. This is where we're going moving forward. He can't say all that quite yet. So cool the Jets just a little bit. I understand that he becomes an easy target because he has been the last couple of years. But on that note, this guy delivers. He hires winning coaches. We have Will Wade, and we're happy about basketball. We can't wait to get that started in a couple of weeks. I would advise everyone just to exercise a bit more patience in football. I know it's tough. I know everyone's pissed. I know we all want better. We'll get better. You just have to keep pushing through. We'll get there eventually. Don't throw the book at this guy right now because he's saying, well, 4-3 is better than 0-7. It is. Should we be better than 4-3? That's also true. But just don't crash out over this. It's not worth the energy. Don't crash out over these comments. They're not that big of a deal. Coming up next, we're going to round out our Friday show with Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Friday sponsor is Rugiet. Fellas, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe even you've tried them before. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. The effects can last up to 36 hours, which means confidence all day, all night, even into the next day. The process is simple. You connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if you are prescribed, your treatment will ship discreetly right to your front door. Are you ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rugiet.com. That's Rugiet, Rugiet.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. You get 15% off of your first order. That's Rugiet.com using promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you. Rugiet.com. Fourth Friday sponsor is FanDuel. The NFL season is underway, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if that thing hits, $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football just a little bit more exciting when you've got something extra riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or just love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. FanDuel, play your game. Last couple minutes of our Friday show. Now time for Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. Here we go. First one comes from Robert Cooper on the context of basketball. They say, what I want is NC State at the end of the year having the player of the year, coach of the year, defensive player of the year, and finish in the top 3 of the ACC. Use the disrespect to achieve. Obviously, Darian Williams was named the preseason ACC player of the year. NC State was picked inside the top 4 of the ACC conference. There's a lot on the table. There's a lot of buzz. There's a lot of excitement. And I actually think everything that Robert said here is on the table. Darian Williams, he can win the player of the year. Will Wade, if he turns this thing around the way he says he's going to, I'd be shocked if he doesn't win coach of the year. Defensive player of the year, I think Terrence Arsenault is an immediate prospect for that. They've been saying a lot about Musa Sagnia as well and his defensive prowess. You never know. And a top 3 finish in the ACC, it's right there for the take. This team has what they need. That's Will Wade's words, and also mine, because I believe that's true as well. If they use that fuel, it's all right there for the taking.
My brother in Christ, I don't know if you know this, but if a team has the player of the year, the coach of the year, and the defensive player of the year, the top three finish is not something you have. That team won the conference going away.
It should be baked in. Yes, it should be baked in.
That team. I mean, when's the last time we saw a team win all three of those awards and they were second or third in the conference? No, but seriously, this is, I'm a big believer in that hatred, that disdain for the way that people treated you, or the way that people viewed you, using that as a motivator to get to where you got to go. I'm a big believer in that. Whenever people are like, oh, men need to talk to themselves more nicely in the gym. Not me, not I, okay? When I'm in there, I'm saying the worst things imaginable to myself to say, I'm going to get stronger, I'm going to get faster, I'm going to get all those things. And that's why people keep telling me, oh, you look like you can still play now. I can't stop saying that, but that's what that is. So by all means, I like this comment. It's a good comment in terms of what you award for this team. But I'll tell you what, this would be one of the greatest years in NC State history in terms of basketball if we walk away with all three of these awards.
Next one comes from Ethan O88. They say, with all the coaching turnover with the potential for more high-profile jobs to open before the end of the year, do you think we'd be competitive in getting a coach who is definitively an upgrade? This is an excellent question. And so again, if you are operating under the idea that Dave Dorn will not be the head coach next year, and the two of us, that is our belief, Kenton, how do you view NC State in this coaching cycle? There's a lot of jobs open. I wouldn't be shocked if there's more to come. The James Franklin news really set the media ablaze in this past week. But how do you see NC State slotting into that if they are indeed looking for a coach?
There was a artist back in the day by the name of Ron Browse. He came up with a song called Jumping Out the Window. And basically he was saying he did his big one. He did something that was outlandishly great for what people had expected. Boo Corrigan gonna have to jump out the window with this one to get a definitive upgrade, right? Now, here's the thing. I think Boo Corrigan can get an upgrade, but I think that it won't be a big splash hire. I'm sorry to tell you, I know people do not want to hear this right now. The reality is this, and I know some people are going to say, well, Ken, the Texas job was open in basketball, and all these other jobs that were potentially more attractive than NC State were more open in basketball, and we still got our guy. I don't think y'all understand how many high-profile jobs are open or going to be opening in football this year. There is a world, and this is a very serious world. There is a world where Penn State, Michigan, Florida are all open. All three of those are open. That's a world that's happening. That's a world, or not that is happening. That's a world that is possible to happen. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Ken, those are just three coaches out of many. Well, I want you to think to yourself, how many coaches can you name right now that you would say NC State both has a chance at and you would be excited at? Now place all of those coaches across those three jobs, and how many are left? How many are you left with that you would say, I'd be super excited about this guy, and they'd not slot into one of those three? And mind you, this is just a game of musical chairs, because a lot of people are saying, oh, Matt Rule's going to go back to his alma mater at Penn State. So then what job comes open if Matt Rule leaves Nebraska? Nebraska comes open. And you can say, well, Nebraska ain't pissed a drop in years. I'm sorry to tell you this, friends. I hate giving good people bad news. And Wolfpack Nation is full of great people. The exact same thing can be said of NC State. They just have more resources. And that's just a fact. So I'm looking at this situation. I'm saying this is objectively one of the worst times in college football history to be looking for a new coach. But this is where Boo Corrigan really earns his hay. Because if Boo Corrigan nails a hire here that we look back at and we're like, what did Boo know when he hired this guy? What did he know that was going to make this guy turn out to be the guy for NC State for years? We'll be shocked. But again, do I think we'd be competitive in getting a coach who's definitively an upgrade? To me, an upgrade is not just about a splash hire. It's also about making the right hire, because certain coaches that have been mentioned with NC State, it's like, okay, if we get that coach, will that coach ever be happy here? Because that coach was always looking to move from his last spot, which was a big-time spot. So do you think we'd be competitive in getting a coach who is definitively an upgrade? I would say yes, but I would say you have to expand your mind in terms of what is definitively an upgrade.
I think you nailed this, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think how you view a splash and an upgrade is pretty much relative, because I think NC State can absolutely get an upgrade, but it might not be a home run name per se. Like, I've seen Jimbo Fisher floated out there. Would you want Jimbo Fisher to come to Raleigh? I'd have to think about it. I don't know yet. Or like James Franklin, or some of the bigger name G5 guys, like John Sumrall, for example. Could you get them is a bigger question of, is it an upgrade? Because financially, that's where this race is going to come into play. When you potentially have to go up against, I don't know, Ole Miss or UCLA or Penn State, it's going to get a little dicey for NC State. I'm not going to lie about that. And I think we might have our answer already about, are they going to angle more toward football or basketball? Are they going to try and split a balance? I believe, based on what we've seen with Will Wade, and I guess we don't quite have the answer yet. We will see about football. But I'm inclined to believe that we are angling more toward basketball, going all in on basketball to be competitive there. And we're going to still compete in football. And so I think Kenton said it well. I think you can get a hire that will turn out to be an upgrade. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be like an FCS coordinator and you just slap them in there and say, all right, figure it out, man. It's not going to be like that. But I also wouldn't bank on getting, I don't know, James Franklin. Could it happen? Maybe. Do I think it'll happen? No. But again, that doesn't mean that no one else would be an upgrade. So there's a lot of different angles to attack this from. I guess another question is this. How do you view NC State job-wise in the ACC? Do you think NC State is a good job? Do you think it's not a good job? Expectations, finances? That is my question in response. How do you view NC State in terms of the ACC and then national scale? I don't know.
You know, I would say NC State is one of the better jobs in the realm that you're in a recruiting hotbed in North Carolina. You don't have a ton of other great football schools in close proximity to you. And even beyond that, and I hate to say this, but it has to be said, Doeren is, objectively speaking, littered all through our coaching history books. In terms of all of the records, Doeren's got a vast majority of them, right? So what does that mean? Would anybody say that Doeren's tenure has been a smashing success, the likes of which NC State should never expect better than? No. That means that if you are pretty good, you can last here for a while. If I'm a coach and I know that my floor is pretty good, I feel good about taking this job. I feel great about taking this job because I know that I'm going to get the resources, know I'm going to get the support, and I know fans are going to pack out Carter Finley regardless. I feel good about it. I feel good about it. When you think about some of the bigger jobs, they also come with bigger pressure. They also come with you got to win something right away. I talk all the time about the fact that there's about 10 to 12 programs where winning 8 games a year is not enough. NC State is not in that 10 to 12. If you win 8 to 12, or if you win 8 to 9 games at NC State every year for 10 years, congratulations. We will build you a statue. We will rename Carter Finley Stadium. It's going to be Grayson Boone Field at Carter Finley Stadium if you go in there and win 9 games a year for 11, 12 years. So this is a moment where I would say when you look at the situation where you can get paid like the huge names, and you don't have the pressure of a Dan Lanning where like he loses one game and everybody's looking at him like, hey, bro, you about to get fired. Like, stop playing around. A Sharon Moore where it's like, hey, bro, you got a true freshman quarterback, but you're not winning right away. What's going on? NC State is that type of job where you can get paid close to them. You're not going to have the same resources as them to go out and recruit and build a team. You're not in the same vein as an Oregon and a Michigan, but you are going to be on par with the teams that you're competing with week in and week out. If we look at our last 5 games, or if we look at our last 3 and our next 3 and say like, all right, are you on pace to compete with these teams? More often than not, that answer is going to be yes. More often than not, you're going to be saying I'm yes or I'm above this team, not no, we are nowhere near where this team is. So I think it's a pretty good job nationally.
Yeah, if doing a good to great job at NC State is 8 to 9 wins, there are tons of coaches that will be able to do that. So yes, there are coaches that will be definitively an upgrade. Last one comes from Kevin Joyner in reference to the bye week. They say bye is favored by 7.5 over the NC State Wolfpack. It's a joke, but we say this to say this bye is obviously coming at a really good time for NC State. Playing 7 consecutive weeks is a pretty long stretch. They're coming in a little bit battered and bruised as well. A couple disappointing results, but they still have 5 games to rally the troops and still play for. Kenton, your thoughts on NC State, I guess, essentially limping into the bye now before going on the road to Pitt?
In the words of Namor in Black Panther 2, get your rest, mourn your dead, and move on. You know, that's a paraphrasing. He didn't say exactly that, but seriously, get your rest, mourn these losses, and look back at them, look back at what happened, look back at what went wrong, look back at what you could do better, and move on. Yes, we're limping in the bye week, but you know what? Get the bye, get your rest, take a beat, take a breath, do whatever you need to do to recalibrate and go on, do some crazy stuff to end this year. Crazy in a positive way, of course. Do some really, do channel those old NC State teams that we saw. We were like, wow, this team's really bad. And then they're like, actually, we can win 6 straight to end the year. Did you know that? I would like to see something along those lines happen here. Is it likely? No. But would I love to see it? Absolutely.
The quote is, bury your dead, mourn your losses. You are queen now. So if you adjust that for NC State, bury your dead, mourn your losses, get back in the lab. There's more still to play for. There's 5 games left. You can rattle off potentially some pretty big wins here if you can get your X's and O's correct. But yeah, season's not over. Still more to play for, but the bye week is most certainly coming at a great time. That will do it for us here on Friday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, mash that subscribe button if you have not already. Obviously, there's a bye week. We have no post-game live this week, so enjoy your weekend of stress-free football watching. We'll see you back here on Monday for more. So until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.